The misunderstanding. Observer Zenth stood in the circular chamber of the Velkrin research vessel. Around him, holographic displays showed images of the third planet in a small solar system. The planet was blue and green, covered in water and life. The inhabitants called it Earth. Zenth had spent 25 years studying this world and the creatures who lived there. Now he would present his findings to the Velkrin High Command. The communication screen activated. 5 faces appeared before him. These were the leaders of the Velkrin Empire, an empire that stretched across 40 star systems. They had built their civilization through careful observation and strategic expansion. They never conquered through violence. Instead, they identified weak species and offered protection. In exchange, these species accepted Velkrin guidance. It was a system that had worked for thousands of years. Zenth bowed his head respectfully. The High Command waited in silence. He touched a control panel and the holographic displays changed. Images of human cities appeared in the air between them. Tall buildings reached toward the sky. Roads stretched in complex patterns. Millions of humans move through these cities every day. The humans are a curious species, Zenth began. They have developed advanced technology. They have split the atom. They have sent machines to other planets in their system. They have even achieved basic space travel. But they have one critical weakness. The High Command members leaned forward. Weakness was important. Weakness determined whether a species needed protection or could be left alone. The humans live in constant terror of fire, Zenth continued. His voice carried absolute certainty. I have observed this fear in every aspect of their civilization. New images appeared. Human homes with small devices attached to ceilings. Human schools where children practiced walking quickly out of buildings. Human vehicles painted red with loud sirens. Humans wearing heavy protective suits fighting flames with water. Look at these devices, Zenth said, pointing to the ceiling-mounted objects. They call them smoke detectors. Every human building has them. These machines create loud sounds when they detect even the smallest amount of smoke. The humans install them everywhere. In their sleeping areas, in their food preparation areas, in their workspaces. They check these devices constantly to ensure they function properly. One of the High Command members spoke. Her voice was thoughtful. Perhaps this is simply practical caution. Zenth shook his head. It goes far beyond caution. Watch this. The images changed again. Now the displays showed human children sitting in classrooms. A human adult stood before them, showing pictures of flames and burned buildings. The children's faces showed concern and attention. They educate their young about fire from the earliest age, Zenth explained. They tell stories designed to create fear. They show images of destruction caused by flames. They conduct regular drills where children practice fleeing from fire. This education is mandatory. Every human child receives it for many years. More images followed. Humans running from burning structures with panic on their faces. Human firefighters using powerful streams of water to combat flames. Human news broadcasts showing the aftermath of fires with dramatic music and worried voices. When fire appears, humans respond with extreme fear, Zenth said. They have created entire professions dedicated to preventing and fighting fire. They spend enormous resources on fire safety. They build structures with materials specifically chosen to resist burning. They maintain huge supplies of water for fire suppression. They have written extensive laws about fire safety. Failure to follow these laws results in punishment. Another High Command member spoke. His tone was analytical. What is the origin of this fear? Most species understand fire as a natural phenomenon. Zenth had prepared for this question. I believe a catastrophic event occurred in their past. Perhaps a massive fire destroyed a significant portion of their early civilization. The trauma was so severe that it became embedded in their collective psychology. Even now, thousands of years later, they cannot overcome this fear. The High Command members looked at each other. Silent communication passed between them. Zenth waited. He had spent 25 years gathering this data. His conclusions were sound. The leader of the High Command spoke. His name was Vorith, and his decisions shaped the destiny of billions. This is valuable information, Observer Zenth. A species ruled by fear is a species that requires guidance. Do you recommend contact? Yes, Zenth replied immediately. The humans have achieved space travel. They will eventually spread beyond their planet. Better that we make contact now and establish proper relationship. They will benefit from our protection. Their fear makes them vulnerable. There are dangerous forces in the galaxy. Without our guidance, the humans will not survive their first encounter with true threats. Vorith nodded slowly. The High Command will vote. You have done well, Observer Zenth. Your service honors the Velkrin Empire. The vote was unanimous. The Velkrin would reveal themselves to humanity. They would offer protection and guidance. They would help the humans overcome their crippling fear of fire. It was the kind and logical thing to do. 3 months later, Velcrin ships appeared in Earth's orbit. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything humans had built. The ships broadcast messages of peace in hundreds of Earth languages. We come as friends. We wish to share knowledge with you. We offer our guidance to younger species finding their way among the stars. The humans reacted with shock and wonder. Their communication networks filled with news of the alien arrival. Human governments scrambled to respond. After weeks of careful communication, the United Nations of Earth agreed to send a diplomatic mission to the Velcrin home world. Commander Sarah Chen was chosen to lead the human delegation. She was 42 years old with sharp eyes and a reputation for remaining calm under pressure. She had served in the Earth Space Navy for 20 years. She had commanded vessels in dangerous situations. She had negotiated with rival human factions during the resource wars. Now she would represent all of humanity in first contact with an alien species. Chen selected her team carefully. Lieutenant Marcus Webb would serve as her military advisor. He was young but exceptionally intelligent with degrees in both physics and strategic analysis. Dr. Amara Okonkwo was a xenobiologist who had spent her career preparing for this exact moment. She would help the team understand Velcrin biology and culture. Sergeant James Morrison led the security detail, a group of 12 Marines chosen for their discipline and adaptability. The night before departure, Chen gathered her senior team in a secure briefing room. The walls were shielded against electronic surveillance. No one could hear their conversation except those present. The Velcrin have shared their research about us, Chen said. She activated a data display. Dr. Okonkwo has analyzed their findings. Amara, please share what you discovered. Dr. Okonkwo stood. She looked uncomfortable. The Velcrin have been observing Earth for 25 years. Their data collection is thorough and impressive. However, their conclusions are deeply flawed. Flawed how? Lieutenant Webb asked. They believe we are afraid of fire, Okonkwo said. She pulled up images from the Velcrin research. They have documented our smoke detectors, our fire safety education, our firefighting services, our building codes. They interpret all of this as evidence of psychological trauma. They think some ancient disaster made us terrified of flames. Sergeant Morrison laughed. It was a short, harsh sound. They think we're scared of fire because we teach kids not to play with matches? That is their conclusion, Okonkwo confirmed. They see caution as cowardice. They see preparation as panic. They believe we need their protection because we cannot overcome our fear. The room fell silent. Chen looked at each member of her team. Outside the window, stars glittered in the darkness. Somewhere in that darkness, the Velcrin waited. They believed they understood humanity perfectly. They believed humans were weak and fearful. Should we correct their misunderstanding? Lieutenant Webb asked. Should we explain that they're completely wrong about us? Chen considered the question carefully. She had spent many years in command. She understood that information was power. She understood that being underestimated could be an advantage. No, Chen said finally. We let them keep their beliefs. We do not correct them unless absolutely necessary. There is value in being underestimated. If they think we are weak, they will reveal more about themselves. They will be less guarded. We can learn about them while they believe they are teaching us. Webb smiled. He understood exactly what his commander meant. And if a situation arises where we need to show our true capabilities? Then we show them, Chen replied. But not before. The human ship departed the next morning. It was called the Endeavour, named after vessels from Earth's history of exploration. The ship carried 50 humans toward an alien world. The journey would take 4 weeks. During that time, the crew prepared for complex negotiations. They studied Velcrin language and customs. They learned proper greetings and formal behavior. They reviewed everything Observer Zenth had recorded about Earth. But in the secure cargo holds, locked behind reinforced doors with armed guards, there were other things. Things the Velcrin had never seen despite 25 years of observation. Equipment that would surprise anyone who believed humans feared fire. Lieutenant Webb reviewed the inventory one evening when sleep would not come. He walked through the cargo bay, checking security seals and status indicators. Plasma rifles capable of firing superheated matter at targets. Thermite charges that burned hot enough to melt through starship hulls. Portable fusion generators that could power weapons requiring enormous energy. Flamethrower units with fuel tanks containing compounds that burned at 3,000 degrees. Webb smiled in the dim light. The Velcrin thought humans feared fire. They had watched humanity treat fire with respect and caution. They had mistaken that respect for terror. They did not understand that humans had been mastering fire for hundreds of thousands of years. Fire had cooked human food and made it safe to eat. Fire had hardened human tools and made them strong. Fire had cleared human fields and made them fertile. Fire had forged human metals and made them into machines. Fire had powered human engines and made them move. Fire had split human atoms and released unimaginable energy. Fire was not humanity's enemy. Fire was humanity's oldest friend. Fire was humanity's first tool. Fire was humanity's greatest weapon. And humanity was bringing it to the stars. The Velcrin homeworld was called Velcros. Commander Chen saw it through the Endeavour's main view screen as they approached. It was a beautiful planet covered in silver forests and purple oceans. Cities rose from the landscape, built from crystalline materials that seemed to grow rather than being constructed. Everything glowed with soft bioluminescent light. The entire world looked peaceful and gentle. No industrial emissions, Lieutenant Webb observed quietly. No power plants with cooling towers or exhaust stacks. No factories with chimneys. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. She had been analyzing Velcrin technology during the journey. They never developed combustion-based energy systems. Their planet has very few materials that burn easily. Most of their vegetation is rich in water and minerals that make it fire-resistant. They use geothermal energy, solar collection, and biological power generation. Fire is almost unknown to them naturally. The Endeavour landed on a platform outside the capital city. A welcoming party waited. Hundreds of Velcrin had gathered to witness the arrival of humans. They were tall beings with smooth gray skin and large dark eyes. They wore flowing garments made from living fabric that shifted colors slowly. They moved with grace and spoke in musical tones. A Velcrin stepped forward. She was smaller than the others with intricate markings on her face and hands. "I am Diplomat Sarah," she said. Her voice was gentle and pleasant. "I have been assigned as your guide during your visit. Welcome to Velcros. We are honored to receive you." Commander Chen stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for your hospitality. We are grateful for this opportunity to learn from you." Sarah smiled. It was a warm smile, but there was something else in it. Something that looked like sympathy or pity. "We have prepared accommodations for your comfort. We understand your species has certain sensitivities. We have ensured there are no open flames anywhere in your living quarters. No fire of any kind. You will be completely safe here." Lieutenant Webb's jaw tightened. Dr. Okonkwo glanced at Commander Chen. Chen's expression showed nothing. "That is very thoughtful," Chen said smoothly. "We appreciate your consideration for our needs." Sarah led them through the Crystal City. Everything was beautiful and strange. The buildings had no sharp edges or corners. The streets curved gently through gardens filled with alien plants. Light came from bioluminescent organisms embedded in every surface. The Velcrin they passed looked at the humans with curiosity and something else. Dr. Okonkwo recognized the expression after observing it repeatedly. It was the way adults looked at frightened children who needed reassurance and protection. Their quarters were luxurious. Soft sleeping platforms, clean water systems, excellent food preparation areas. But there was no warmth anywhere. No heating elements, no cooking flames, no fire of any kind. The temperature was controlled by biological systems in the walls. That evening, Diplomat Sarah hosted a formal dinner for the human delegation. Important Velcrin officials attended. The food was unusual but not unpleasant. Cold dishes, raw vegetables, proteins prepared without heat. Everything was served at room temperature. "We apologize if the food is unfamiliar," Sarah said. She looked genuinely concerned. "We did not want to use preparation methods that might cause you distress or discomfort." "You mean cooking with fire," Lieutenant Webb said. His voice was flat and neutral. Sarah looked at him with gentle understanding. "Yes. We know about your people's history with fire. We know how much suffering it has caused your species. There is no shame in this fear. Many civilizations carry trauma from their past. We want you to feel safe and protected here." Dr. Okonkwo glanced at Commander Chen. Chen's face remained carefully neutral. "Tell us," Chen said, "what do your people believe about human history with fire?" Sarah seemed pleased by the question. She was happy to share their knowledge. "Our scientists have studied your world extensively. We have observed how you protect yourselves from fire. The alarm systems in your buildings, the special protective clothing your fire warriors wear, the way you educate your children to fear flames from early childhood. We believe that long ago, perhaps many thousands of years in your past, a catastrophic fire destroyed much of your early civilization. The memory of that disaster lives in your people still. That is why you remain so vigilant. That is why fire frightens you so deeply." The Velcrin officials around the table nodded. They all accepted this explanation. They all believed humans were ruled by ancient trauma. "And if we told you that you were wrong?" Lieutenant Webb asked. "If we told you that we are not afraid of fire at all?" Sarah's smile did not change. It remained kind and understanding. "We would not judge you. It is difficult to admit fear, especially for a proud species like humans. But there is no shame in acknowledging vulnerabilities. We are here to help you. We want to offer our protection and guidance. Together, we can help your species overcome this trauma. The next day, formal treaty negotiations began. Commander Chen sat across from a council of Velcrin leaders. High Command Member Vorith was there. Observer Zenth attended as the expert on human behavior. Diplomat Sarah translated and explained cultural nuances. Other Velcrin officials represented military, scientific, and economic interests. The Velcrin proposal was straightforward. They called it a protective partnership. Humanity would become an associate species within the Velcrin sphere of influence. The Velcrin would provide advanced technology, abundant resources, and military protection. In exchange, humans would accept Velcrin guidance in their development. Velcrin advisors would help human governments make wise decisions. Velcrin ships would patrol human space to ensure safety. Velcrin teachers would help humans overcome their psychological limitations. The galaxy is more dangerous than you realize, Vorith explained. His tone was fatherly and concerned. There are hostile species that would destroy you without hesitation. You are not ready to face them alone. Your fear limits you. Let us protect you until you are stronger. Commander Chen listened carefully. She asked thoughtful questions. She took detailed notes. She did not agree or disagree with anything. She simply gathered information. That night, she met with her senior team in a secure room aboard the Endeavour. They checked for listening devices before speaking. The room was completely isolated from Velcrin surveillance. They want to make us a subject species, Sergeant Morrison said bluntly. They are not offering partnership. They are offering control dressed up as protection. They genuinely believe we need it, Dr. Okonkwo added. They truly think we are too weak and too traumatized to survive on our own. This is not malicious. They see themselves as helping us. Webb shook his head. Should we show them the truth? Show them what we are really capable of? Commander Chen was quiet for a long moment. She stood at the window, looking at the alien stars. Not yet, she said finally. The time is not right. We need to understand them better. We need to know what else exists in this galaxy. We need more information before we reveal our true nature. Before anyone could respond, the Endeavour's communication system activated. An urgent message was arriving from Earth. The computer indicated it was classified at the highest level. Chen accepted the transmission. Her face went pale as she read the message. What is it? Webb asked, concerned by his commander's expression. Chen handed him the data pad. His eyes widened as he read. A hostile alien fleet has been detected, Chen said, her voice tight. Earth Command identifies them as the Scourge. Hundreds of thousands of ships. They are heading directly for Earth. Dr. Okonkwo stood up quickly. What do we know about them? Nothing, Chen replied. Earth has never encountered them before. But the Velcrin might have information. Morrison was already moving toward the door. We need to get back to Earth immediately. Chen nodded. But first, we need to talk to the Velcrin. We need to know what we are facing. She found Vorith in the Velcrin Military Command Center. The High Command member was already receiving reports about the Scourge. Observer Zenth stood beside him, looking at holographic displays showing the approaching threat. You know about them, Chen said. It was not a question. Tell us everything. Vorith turned to face the human commander. His expression was filled with pity and sadness. The Scourge cannot be stopped, he said gently. They are a silicon-based species that consumes everything. Every world they touch becomes lifeless. They have destroyed dozens of civilizations. I am deeply sorry, Commander Chen. Your home world is lost. Chen stared at him. Lost? We have not even attempted to fight them yet. Vorith shook his head slowly. Fighting the Scourge is impossible. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. We can offer to evacuate some of your people. Perhaps a few thousand could live here under our protection. But Earth itself is finished. You must accept this. Commander Chen's hands curled into fists at her sides. Her voice was steady and cold when she spoke. No. We are going home. And we are going to fight. Vorith looked at her with confusion. He did not understand. How could a species terrified of simple fire possibly hope to stand against the Scourge? A species that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity? He would soon discover how wrong he had been. He would soon learn that the Velcrin had made a catastrophic error in their understanding of humanity. They had mistaken caution for cowardice. They had mistaken respect for fear. They had mistaken preparation for weakness. The humans were going home to fight. And they were bringing fire with them. The revelation. The Endeavour raced through space at maximum velocity. Every second mattered now. Behind the human ship, 3 Velcrin observation vessels followed. Observer Zenth had requested permission to accompany the humans. He wanted to document their final days. High Command member Voreth had sent military analysts as well. They expected to witness a brief and tragic defeat. They would record it for future study of how civilizations fell. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching stars streak past on the viewscreen. The journey back to Earth would take 3 weeks at current speed. Every hour brought them closer to their home world. Every hour brought the Scourge closer as well. Lieutenant Marcus Webb worked at the tactical station, coordinating with Earth Command. "Tell me everything we know about the Scourge," Chen said. Webb pulled up data on his display. According to Velcrin records, the Scourge is a silicon-based collective organism. They are not a civilization in any traditional sense. They are more like a living swarm. Billions of individual creatures that function as a single entity. They travel through space consuming everything they encounter. Organic matter, minerals, energy, water. They absorb it all and use it to replicate themselves. What are their weaknesses? Chen asked. Webb was quiet for a moment. According to Velcrin data, they have none. Every species that has attempted to fight them has been completely destroyed. The Velcrin survive only by avoiding the Scourge entirely. They run and hide. They never engage. Chen's expression hardened. Humans do not run from our home. In the lower decks, Sergeant James Morrison was preparing his Marines for combat. They moved through weapons drills with practiced efficiency. Every soldier knew their role. Every piece of equipment was checked and rechecked. Private Daniel Park sat in the corner of the armory, carefully maintaining his flamethrower unit. The weapon was heavy, nearly 60 kilograms with a full fuel tank. The fuel was a special compound developed by human military scientists. It burned at temperatures that could melt most known materials. Park handled the weapon with respect and confidence. "You ready for this?" Morrison asked him. Park looked up. His eyes were calm and focused. "Yes, Sergeant. I have been training with this weapon for 5 years. I am ready to use it." "Ever used it in actual combat?" "Training exercises only," Park admitted. "But I have been waiting for something like this. A real threat. A real enemy. Something that needs to be burned." Morrison nodded. He trusted this young Marine. Park was quiet and thoughtful, but there was steel inside him. Dr. Amara Okonkwo entered the armory. "The commander wants everyone in the main briefing room. We are receiving live data feeds from Earth." They gathered in the briefing room. The main screen showed images from Earth's outer sensor network. What they saw made even the experienced soldiers go quiet. The Scourge was visible now. A massive dark cloud spreading across space. Millions upon millions of individual creatures moving together. Each creature was different. Some were small, barely larger than a human hand. Others were enormous, the size of buildings. All of them moved with single purpose toward Earth. "The swarm has passed Jupiter," a voice from Earth Command reported. "Current projections show they will reach Mars in 18 hours. Earth in 36 hours. What is the status of our defenses?" Chen asked. "The Third Fleet is positioned near Mars. Orbital defense platforms around Earth are online and armed. Ground forces are deployed at major population centers. We have approximately 4 million troops ready for surface combat if the Scourge reaches the planet." "What about Project Sunfire?" Chen asked. Her voice was steady but urgent. There was a brief pause. "Operational and ready for deployment, Commander. All weapon systems are charged. We are waiting for your arrival and authorization." Chen nodded. "We will be there in 20 hours. Tell the fleet to hold their positions. Tell ground forces to prepare for sustained combat. We are coming home." Observer Zenth was watching from the back of the briefing room. The Velcrin had been granted permission to observe human military operations. What he witnessed confused him deeply. These humans did not look like a species facing extinction. They showed no panic, no despair, no preparation for evacuation. Instead, they looked determined and focused. Some of them even looked eager. "Commander Chen," Zenth said respectfully, "I must speak with you. This is important." Chen turned to face him. "What is it, Observer?" Zenth chose his words carefully. "I have studied human behavior for 25 years. I have come to understand your people. But I do not understand what you hope to accomplish here. The Scourge has never been defeated. Your weapons, no matter how advanced, cannot stop them. Why sacrifice so many lives for a world that cannot be saved?" Chen looked at the alien observer for a long moment. "Because those are our people down there," she said simply. "Our families. Our homes. Our history. Our future. We do not abandon them." "But you will all die," Zenth said. His voice carried genuine concern. "There is no shame in survival. The Velcrin will help evacuate whoever we can. You can rebuild elsewhere." "Maybe we will die," Chen replied. "Or maybe we will not. You have been watching us for 25 years, Observer Zenth. But you only saw part of the picture. You saw us being careful with fire. You thought that meant we were afraid of it." Chen's eyes were hard as iron. You were wrong about us. You were completely and utterly wrong. The Endeavour dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars. The sight that greeted them was terrifying. The scourge filled half the sky. The swarm was larger than anything humanity had ever faced. Creatures of every size and shape moved together like a living storm. The largest ones were like floating mountains. The smallest darted between them like insects. The human Third Fleet waited between Mars and the approaching swarm. 73 warships hung in formation. They looked small against the enormity of the scourge. Like fishing boats facing a hurricane. All ships, this is Commander Sarah Chen aboard the Endeavour. I am assuming command of defensive operations. All vessels report status. One by one, the ships responded. Weapons charged and ready. Shields at maximum. Crews at battle stations. Waiting for orders. Status of orbital platforms? Chen asked. 16 platforms operational around Mars. 342 platforms operational around Earth. All armed with thermite missile systems. Ready to fire on your command. Chen looked at the swarm approaching Mars. Millions of creatures. An enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. An enemy that had never been defeated. All ships, prepare to engage, Chen ordered. Focus initial fire on the largest creatures. Drive them back from Mars. Show them we will not yield our worlds without a fight. Commander, the orbital platforms are requesting permission to activate, a voice said. Granted, Chen replied. Light them up. The orbital defense platforms around Mars launched their first salvo. These were not ordinary missiles. They were thermite weapons, each one containing compounds that burned at extreme temperatures. Human scientists had developed them specifically for space combat. Each missile carried enough fuel to create a fireball hundreds of meters wide. The missiles reached the scourge and detonated. Space itself seemed to catch fire. Enormous spheres of white-hot flame blossomed among the alien creatures. Thousands of them ignited instantly. Their silicon-based bodies were not designed to withstand such heat. They burned and melted and turned to vapor. The fire spread from creature to creature. The heat was so intense that it caused chain reactions through entire sections of the swarm. Where there had been a solid wall of alien bodies, there were now gaps and holes. Thousands of scourge creatures died in the first minute of combat. On the Velcrin observation ships, every alien was frozen in shock. Observer Zenth stood at the main view screen, unable to look away. He had never seen anything like this. Fire in the vacuum of space. Fire used as a weapon with perfect precision. Fire controlled and directed by beings who were supposed to fear it. What is happening? Zenth whispered. What are they doing? A Velcrin military analyst stood beside him, equally stunned. They are burning the swarm. But fire is their greatest fear. They are terrified of flames. How can they use fire as a weapon if they fear it? Zenth shook his head slowly. A terrible realization was forming in his mind. I do not think they fear it at all. I think we have made a catastrophic error in understanding these beings. On the Endeavour bridge, Commander Chen watched the first wave of missiles tear holes in the Scourge formation. It was not enough to stop them. Not yet. But it was an effective beginning. All ships, advance, Chen ordered. Take the fight directly to them. Show them what humanity can do. The human fleet surged forward. Every ship carried weapons designed specifically for one purpose. To burn. Every weapon system had been developed with fire at its core. Plasma cannons fired streams of matter heated to millions of degrees. Incendiary torpedoes exploded in brilliant cascades of flame. Focused energy beams cut through alien creatures like hot knives through ice. Humanity had spent 100,000 years learning to master fire. They had used it to survive ice ages that should have killed them. They had used it to cook food and make themselves stronger. They had used it to forge tools and build civilizations. They had used it to power engines and reach the stars. They had used it to split atoms and release the power of suns. Now they would use it to defend their home. The battle above Mars intensified. Human ships cut through the Scourge with devastating effectiveness. The aliens tried to swarm individual vessels, but the ships fought in coordinated groups. They covered each other with overlapping fields of fire. When Scourge creatures tried to latch onto hulls, close-range plasma bursts incinerated them before they could do damage. Lieutenant Webb monitored the tactical display. The thermite missiles are working better than projected. The Scourge creatures are extremely vulnerable to high temperatures. Their silicon-based biology cannot withstand the heat. Commander Chen nodded. Order the orbital platforms to increase fire rate. Concentrate on the densest clusters. Create killing zones they cannot pass through. The platforms around Mars launched wave after wave of missiles. Each explosion created a temporary sun in the darkness. The Scourge tried to avoid the flames, but there were too many missiles coming from too many directions. The swarm's advance slowed and then stopped completely. They could not push past the wall of fire. On the surface of Mars, the battle was equally fierce. Some scourge creatures broke through the orbital defenses and landed on the colony domes. They clawed at the reinforced walls, trying to reach the humans inside. Sergeant Morrison led his Marines through the corridors of Colony 7. Red emergency lights cast shadows everywhere. The sound of scourge creatures scratching at the outer walls was constant and terrifying. "Contact ahead," one Marine shouted. A scourge creature burst through a wall panel. It was roughly the size of a large dog, with multiple sharp limbs and a mouth filled with grinding components. It made a horrible shrieking sound and charged at the Marines. Private Daniel Park stepped forward calmly. He raised his flamethrower and engaged the trigger. A stream of white-hot plasma erupted from the weapon. The stream caught the scourge creature and engulfed it completely. The thing screamed, a high-pitched sound of pain and confusion. Within seconds, it was nothing but melted slag on the floor. "Keep moving," Morrison ordered. "There will be more." There were many more. Scourge creatures poured into the colony from multiple breach points. But wherever they went, they found humans waiting with fire. Flamethrowers, incendiary grenades, plasma rifles. The colonists had armed themselves with anything that could burn. In the colony's main plaza, civilian defenders held a defensive line against dozens of scourge creatures. A young woman with a military-grade flamethrower stood at the front. She swept fire back and forth, keeping the creatures away from the families huddled behind her. "Hold the line," she shouted. "Do not let them reach the evacuation shelter." The fire worked. The scourge burned. Every creature that entered the plaza was consumed by flames before it could advance more than a few meters. Back in orbit, the tide of battle continued to turn. The scourge swarm was being driven back from Mars. Human weapons were simply too effective. The aliens had never encountered a species that used fire so extensively. They had no defense against it. Observer Zenth watched the battle unfold with growing horror and understanding. He turned to the Velcrin military analyst. "We need to contact High Command immediately. We need to tell them what we have discovered." "What have we discovered?" the analyst asked. "That we were wrong about everything," Zenth replied. "The humans are not afraid of fire. Fire is their weapon. Fire is their tool. Fire is their civilization. We thought they feared it, but they have mastered it completely. We have severely underestimated them." The analyst looked back at the battle. Human ships were systematically destroying entire sections of the scourge. "Should we offer assistance?" Zenth shook his head. "I do not think they need our help. I think they are going to win this battle." 18 hours into the engagement, the scourge swarm began to retreat from Mars. They had lost more than 40% of their numbers. The remaining creatures turned away from the red planet and scattered in different directions. Some headed toward the outer solar system. Others attempted to flee entirely. Commander Chen watched them go. "Do not let them escape," she ordered. "Pursue and destroy. We cannot allow them to regroup and return." The human fleet split into hunting groups. They chased down fleeing scourge creatures and eliminated them systematically. It took another 12 hours, but eventually, the last of the scourge in the solar system was destroyed. Earth had survived. Humanity had won. Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavour as they entered orbit around Earth. The planet looked beautiful and peaceful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. "Home." Incoming transmission from the Velcrin observer ship, Lieutenant Webb reported. "Put it through," Chen said. Observer Zenth appeared on the screen. He looked tired and humbled. "Commander Chen," he said formally, "I must speak with you. It is important." "Go ahead, Observer." Zenth took a breath. "For 25 years, I studied your species. I believed I understood you. I documented your behavior around fire. I saw your caution and preparation, and I concluded that you feared flames. I reported this to my government. We based our entire approach to humanity on this belief." He paused. His expression was pained. "We were completely wrong. Fire is not your fear. Fire is your strength. Fire is your oldest companion. You do not fear it. You have mastered it more completely than any species we have ever encountered. We underestimated you catastrophically." Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke gently. "Fire is dangerous, Observer Zenth. It can destroy if not treated with respect. That is why we are careful with it. That is why we teach our children about its dangers. Not because we fear it, but because we respect it. We understand its power because we have been using that power for 100,000 years." Zenth nodded slowly. "I understand now. Your caution was wisdom, not fear. Your preparation was strength, not weakness. We saw what we expected to see instead of what was truly there. It is an easy mistake to make," Chen said. "We do not hold it against you." Zenth looked directly at her. "The Velcrin High Command has asked me to make a formal request. They wished to establish an alliance with humanity. Not as protectors and protected, but as equals. As partners. We were wrong to believe you needed our guidance. In truth, we have much to learn from you. Commander Chen smiled. We would welcome such an alliance. The galaxy is dangerous, as you said. It would be good to face those dangers together. The communication ended. Chen turned to her crew. They had won not just a battle, but something more important. They had earned respect. Dr. Okonkwo approached Chen quietly. What do you think will happen now? Chen looked at Earth on the viewscreen. Now we move forward. We explore the galaxy as equals, not as subjects. We share what we know and learn from others. We face challenges together with our new allies. And if threats appear, we respond with everything we have. Including fire? Okonkwo asked with a small smile. Especially fire, Chen replied. It is who we are. It is what makes us human. We do not fear it. We never have. Fire was our first tool, our first weapon, our first step toward civilization. We carried it with us from caves to cities to starships. We will carry it with us to the stars. In the weeks that followed, the Velkrin Empire formally apologized for their misunderstanding. They withdrew their proposal of protective partnership and offered instead a treaty of mutual cooperation. Humanity accepted. The two civilizations began sharing technology and knowledge as genuine partners. Observer Zenth retired from active service. He spent his remaining years writing a detailed account of his error. He wanted future Velkrin researchers to learn from his mistake. The book became required reading in Velkrin educational institutions. Its central lesson was simple: never assume you understand another species based on surface observations. Dig deeper. Ask questions. Challenge your assumptions. The story of humanity's defense against the scourge spread throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations heard about the species that wielded fire as a weapon. Some were impressed. Some were terrified. All of them approached humanity with caution and respect. Humanity continued exploring the galaxy. They built new ships and established new colonies. They encountered other species and formed new alliances. They faced new challenges and overcame them with ingenuity and determination. And wherever humans went, they brought fire with them. Not as something to fear, but as something to respect and use wisely. Fire to warm cold nights. Fire to cook food. Fire to forge tools. Fire to power engines. Fire to defend against enemies. Fire was humanity's oldest companion. It had been with them since the beginning. It would be with them until the end. Commander Sarah Chen eventually retired from active service. She became an ambassador, helping establish relationships between humanity and newly discovered species. She traveled to dozens of worlds and met hundreds of different aliens. Each time, she told them the same thing. We are human. We do not fear fire. We master it. We respect it. We use it to build and to protect. If you come to us in peace, you will find friends and partners. If you come to us in war, you will find fire. The choice is yours. Most chose peace. Those who did not learn the same lesson the scourge had learned. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. They were not weak. They were not afraid. They were survivors who had turned their oldest companion into their greatest weapon. They were human. And they had brought fire to the stars.